The message came at 3 in the morning, and Danny Cole knew something was very wrong. In his 6 years on the planet, he had never once been summoned to the royal palace. He was just an engineer, a fixer of broken things, and they did not believe in fixing things. They believed in accepting what was and moving gracefully toward what would be. Danny pulled on his uniform and stepped out into the violet night. The twin moons hung low over the crystalline spires of the capital city, casting long shadows across streets that seemed to be made of frozen light. He had grown to love this world and its people, even if he never fully understood them. They were tall and thin, their bodies producing a soft glow that changed color with their emotions. They spoke through patterns of light rather than sound, and their translators turned those patterns into words that always sounded like poetry. A transport was waiting for him. The pilot said nothing during the journey, but Danny could see from the pale blue of her glow that she was afraid. Fear was rare among them. They had built their entire civilization on the idea of acceptance and peace. Whatever was happening at the palace was serious enough to shake that foundation. The palace rose from the center of the city like a frozen waterfall. Its walls were transparent, and Danny could see thousands of gathered inside, their lights dim and flickering. Ambassador Murray met him at the entrance. She was a practical woman in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Thank you for coming so quickly," she said. "I need you to stay calm and remember that whatever happens in there, we are guests on this world." "What's going on?" Danny asked. "The Queen is dying." Danny stopped walking. Queen had ruled for over 2,000 years. She was the heart of civilization, the one constant in a society that valued stability above all else. Her death would change everything. "How?" he asked. "I thought they lived for thousands of years naturally." "They do," Ambassador Murray said. "But the Queen is different. She is sustained by something called the spark. It has been bonded to her biology since before anyone can remember, and now it is failing." They walked through halls filled with silent, grieving. Danny had never seen so many of them in one place, and he had never seen their lights so dim. It was like walking through a room full of dying stars. The royal chamber was at the top of the palace. Queen lay on a bed of woven crystal, her body barely glowing at all. She was ancient beyond measure, but her face still held a kind of gentle strength that Danny found deeply moving. Beside her bed, a small device pulsed with fading light. It was no bigger than a human heart, and its surface was covered in symbols that Danny did not recognize. "This is the spark," said Counselor, a young scholar who served as the Queen's advisor. "It has sustained our Queen for over 2,000 years. 3 days ago it began to fail. Our healers do not know why. Our scholars cannot understand its design. We have no engineers. We have never needed them." Danny stepped closer to the device. He could feel a faint warmth coming from it, and something else, a kind of hum that he felt in his bones rather than heard with his ears. He pulled out his scanner and began to take readings. "May I touch it?" he asked. Counselor hesitated. "The spark is sacred. No one has touched it except the Queen herself." "I understand," Danny said. "But if you want me to help, I need to examine it properly." The Queen's light flickered and the translator spoke in a voice like wind through crystal chimes. "Let him touch it. Let him try." Danny placed his hands on the device. It was warm and smooth, and the moment he touched it, information flooded through his scanner. Most of it made no sense. The technology was based on principles he had never encountered, energy patterns that should not exist, materials that his scanner could not identify. But there was something familiar in the decay pattern, a kind of entropy he had seen before in very old power systems. "It's running out of energy," he said. "But the energy source is not the problem. Something is blocking the flow like a clogged pipe. The device itself is not broken. Something is interfering with it." "Can you fix it?" Ambassador Murray asked. Danny shook his head. "I don't even understand how it works. This technology is beyond anything I've ever seen. It might be beyond anything humanity has ever seen. Counselor stepped forward. There is a place, he said quietly, a forbidden place beneath the surface of our world, the hollow depths. It is where the spark was found, long before any living was born. The ancient texts say that other devices like this one exist there, along with the knowledge of how they work. Then we need to go there, Danny said. The room fell silent. The gathered looked at each other with lights that flickered between fear and shock. The hollow depths are forbidden, said one of the council members. No one has entered them in over 1,000 years. Those who went before came back changed, or did not come back at all. I'm not, Danny said. Your rules don't apply to me. The rules exist for a reason, the council member insisted. There are things in the depths that were never meant to be disturbed. Danny looked at the queen. Her light was so faint now that he could barely see it. Your queen is dying, he said. Whatever is in those depths, is it worse than losing her? No one answered. The silence stretched on until it became unbearable. Then the queen herself spoke, her light gathering strength for just a moment. Let the human go, she said. Let him seek the truth. I have lived long enough to know that fear of the unknown is a poor reason to accept defeat. If there is a chance, however small, we must take it. The council members bowed their heads. They did not agree, but they would not defy their queen. Danny turned to Ambassador Murray. I need supplies for a journey underground. Food, water, lights, and whatever climbing equipment you can find. I'm going with you, said Counselor. I have studied the forbidden texts. I know the maps of the upper levels, and someone should be there to witness whatever you find. Danny looked at the young. His light was steady despite his obvious fear. Are you sure? Your own council said it's dangerous. My queen is dying, said simply. I am sure. Ambassador Murray put her hand on Danny's shoulder. Be careful down there. The Conquered has rules about interfering with ancient sites, and I would rather not explain to my superiors why I let our only engineer disappear into a forbidden hole in the ground. Danny smiled. I'll be careful and I'll bring back answers. He looked one last time at the queen. Her eyes were closed, but her light pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. He did not know if she could hear him, but he spoke anyway. I'm going to fix this, he said. That's what I do. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber, with Counselor following close behind. The journey into the hollow depths was about to begin, and Danny Cole had no idea what he would find there. But he knew one thing for certain. He was not going to let the queen die without trying everything in his power to save her. The entrance to the hollow depths was hidden in a valley 3 hours from the capital city. Danny and Counselor stood at the edge of a massive hole in the ground, looking down into darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. They called it the throat of ancestors, and according to, no one had passed through it in over 1,000 years. The ancient texts describe 7 levels, said. The first 3 were built by my people long ago. The lower 4 were already here when we found them. They belonged to someone else. Danny activated his and checked his equipment one more time. He had enough supplies for 3 days underground, along with climbing gear, a medical kit, and every scanner and tool he could carry. He also had a communication link to Doctor, aboard the human research vessel Endeavor, which was orbiting. Doctor, can you hear me? He said into his communicator. Loud and clear, came the reply. I've got your position locked, and I'll be monitoring your vitals and sensor data throughout the descent. Just remember that the signal might get spotty as you go deeper. Understood, we're heading down now. Danny went first, lowering himself over the edge and finding footholds in the crystalline walls of the shaft. Followed, his natural glow providing extra light in the darkness. The descent was slow and careful, and Danny found himself grateful for all those years of training he had done back on Earth. Climbing had always been his way of clearing his head, and now it was keeping him alive. The first level was exactly what it described. It was clearly in design, with smooth walls and delicate carvings that depicted scenes from their history. Danny saw images of the first queen receiving the spark, her light blazing like a small sun. He saw the building of the great cities and the long peace that had lasted for thousands of years. "Your people have a beautiful history," Danny said. "We have had the luxury of peace," replied. "The spark gave our queen wisdom and stability. Without it, I do not know what we would have become." They continued downward, passing through the second and third levels. The air grew colder, and the carvings became older and more faded. Danny noticed that the style was changing too. The smooth curves were giving way to sharper angles, and the symbols were becoming less familiar. "We are approaching the fourth level," said. "Beyond this point, the texts become unclear. The scholars who wrote them did not venture any further." Danny paused to catch his breath and take some readings. His scanner was picking up strange energy signatures, faint but consistent, coming from somewhere below. "There's something active down there," he said. "Something is still powered after all this time." They descended into the fourth level, and Danny felt like he had crossed into another world entirely. The walls were made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The passages were wider and taller, designed for beings much larger than humans, and everywhere he looked, there were symbols he did not recognize. "These are not," whispered. His light had dimmed with fear, but he kept moving forward. "No," Danny agreed. "These are much older." They came to a chamber filled with murals. The images showed tall beings with multiple limbs and faces that seemed to shift and change depending on the angle. These beings were depicted traveling between stars, building great structures, and touching the foreheads of smaller creatures who looked like primitive versions of many species Danny knew, including early humans. "Doctor, are you seeing this?" Danny asked, holding up his scanner to capture the images. "I'm seeing it," she replied, her voice filled with wonder. "Danny, if these images are accurate, you're looking at evidence of a precursor species. A civilization that existed millions of years before any of the current galactic powers. This is the discovery of a lifetime." Danny moved closer to one of the murals. It showed one of the tall beings handing a small glowing object to a. The object looked exactly like the spark. "They gave it to them," Danny said. "The spark was a gift from these beings, whoever they were." Was trembling, but his voice was steady. "The forbidden texts hint at this. They speak of benefactors from the sky who came before memory began, but no one believed they were real." They continued deeper into the ruins. The fifth level was filled with machines, dormant and dark, covered in dust that must have been accumulating for millions of years. Danny recognized some of the design principles from theoretical physics papers he had read back on Earth, concepts that human scientists had only begun to explore. "This is incredible," he said. "They were working with technologies that we've only dreamed about. Zero-point energy, dimensional folding, things that we thought were impossible." He approached one of the machines, and the moment he got close, it activated. Lights flickered on across its surface, and a holographic display appeared in the air before him. It showed a star map, with one system highlighted in red. Danny recognized the location. It was a region of space that the Galactic Concord had designated as forbidden due to spatial anomalies. They called it the Shattered Veil. "The machine recognized you," said, his voice barely a whisper. "It recognized that I'm alive," Danny said. "I think these systems were designed to wait for someone to come back." The holographic display changed. It showed an image of the spark, along with what looked like a repair protocol. Danny's translator struggled with the ancient language, but he could make out enough to understand the basics. The spark was designed to last forever, but it needed periodic maintenance. The components for that maintenance were stored at a specific location. The display highlighted the system in the Shattered Veil. "The answer is out there," Danny said. "Whatever we need to fix the spark, it's in that forbidden region of space." stared at the display with a mixture of fear and hope. The shattered veil is dangerous. Ships that enter do not return. The Conquered forbids anyone from going there. The Conquered forbids a lot of things, Danny said. But your queen is dying, and this is the only lead we have. He contacted Doctor and transmitted all the data he had collected. I need you to analyze this repair protocol and figure out exactly what we need. And I need you to find someone with a ship fast enough and tough enough to make it through the shattered veil. Danny, that's a suicide mission, Doctor said. The veil is full of spatial anomalies. Time runs differently in there. Ships get torn apart. Then we need a ship that won't get torn apart, Danny said. There has to be someone in the fleet crazy enough to try. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then Doctor laughed. Actually, I might know someone. Her name is Bate Lowry, and she's been wanting to explore the veil for years. Let me make some calls. Danny turned to. We need to get back to the surface. The Queen doesn't have much time, and we have a long journey ahead of us. They began the long climb back up through the ancient ruins. Danny's mind was racing with everything he had seen. A precursor species that had shaped the galaxy, technology that could change everything, and a forbidden region of space that held the key to saving a dying queen. He did not know what they would find in the shattered veil, but he knew he had to try. That was what humans did. They faced the impossible and found a way through. Captain Bate Lowry was exactly the kind of person Danny had hoped to find. She was a woman in her 40s with short gray hair and eyes that seemed to be constantly looking for the next adventure. When Danny explained the mission, she did not hesitate for even a second. I've been waiting my whole career for someone to give me a reason to go into the veil, she said, leaning back in her chair aboard the scout ship Pathfinder. Everyone said I was crazy for wanting to explore it. Turns out I was just ahead of my time. The Pathfinder was a small vessel, designed for speed and maneuverability rather than comfort. Its crew consisted of only 2 people. Captain Lowry and her navigator, a young man named Park, was quiet and serious, the perfect balance to Bates' wild enthusiasm. I should warn you, said as they prepared for departure, the veil is not just dangerous. It's unpredictable. Our instruments go haywire in there. Time flows differently in different places. Some pilots report seeing things that couldn't possibly be real. I've dealt with strange things before, Danny said. I'll manage. They left orbit and set course for the forbidden region of space. The journey took 2 days at maximum speed, and Danny spent most of that time studying the data from the ancient ruins. The repair protocol for the Spark was complex, but he was beginning to understand its basic principles. The device drew energy from a source that existed outside normal space, and the blockage was being caused by a degraded component that acted as a kind of filter. The replacement component was waiting at the precursor station in the shattered veil. All they had to do was get there, find it, and get back before Queen died. Simple, except for the part where they had to survive a region of space where physics itself broke down. The edge of the shattered veil appeared on their sensors like a wall of static. Beyond it, the stars seemed to twist and blur, as if viewed through broken glass. Bate brought the Pathfinder to a stop just outside the boundary. Last chance to turn back, she said. Once we go in, there's no guarantee we'll find our way out. Danny looked at the swirling chaos ahead of them. Somewhere in there was the key to saving a civilization. Let's go, he said. Bate grinned and pushed the throttle forward. The moment they crossed into the veil, everything changed. The ship shook violently, and the lights flickered on and off. Danny grabbed onto his seat as warning alarms blared throughout the cabin, was shouting numbers that made no sense, distance readings that jumped from meters to light years and back again. Our instruments are useless, said. I can't navigate if I can't trust the readings. Danny pulled out his scanner and connected it to the ship's systems. He had been thinking about this problem ever since he studied the precursor technology in the hollow depths. The ancients had built the veil, or at least they had understood it. Their technology might hold the key to navigating it. "I'm going to try something," he said. "The precursor machines operated on different principles than ours. If I can modify our sensors to detect the same energy patterns they used, we might be able to see through the chaos." "Do it fast," Bates said. "We're flying blind in here." Danny worked quickly, his fingers moving across the controls as he rewrote the sensor algorithms. It was like trying to translate a language he had only just begun to learn, but slowly a picture began to emerge. The chaos of the veil was not random. It had a structure, like a maze seen from above, and at the center of that maze, something was glowing with a steady, familiar light. "There," Danny said, pointing at the display. "That's our destination. I can see a path through the anomalies." Bate followed his directions, guiding the Pathfinder through corridors of stable space that wound between regions of impossible distortion. They passed through areas where time seemed to slow down, and other areas where Danny could have sworn he saw multiple versions of their own ship flying alongside them. "Don't look too closely," advised. "The veil plays tricks on the mind. Focus on what's ahead." After what felt like hours but might have been minutes or days, they emerged into a pocket of calm at the heart of the veil. And there, floating in the center of that pocket, was the most incredible thing Danny had ever seen. It was a station, massive and ancient, built in the same dark metal as the ruins beneath. It stretched across space like a frozen flower, with arms that curved and twisted in ways that should have been impossible. Parts of it seemed to exist outside normal space, flickering in and out of visibility as they approached. "That's it," Danny whispered. "That's what we've been looking for." Bate brought the Pathfinder in slowly, looking for a place to dock. As they got closer, lights began to activate on the station's surface, spreading outward from their position like ripples in a pond. The station was waking up. "I think it knows we're here," said nervously. A docking bay opened ahead of them, revealing a space that was clearly designed for vessels much larger than the Pathfinder. Bate guided them inside and set the ship down gently. The moment they touched the deck, a soft hum filled the air, and the interior of the bay lit up with a warm, welcoming glow. "It's been waiting," Danny said, "waiting for someone to come." They suited up and stepped out of the ship. The air inside the station was breathable, kept fresh by systems that had been running for millions of years. Danny's scanner picked up energy signatures everywhere, devices and machines that he could not even begin to understand. They followed the strongest signal toward the center of the station. The corridors were lined with displays that activated as they passed, showing images of the precursor beings going about their lives. Danny saw them building, creating, reaching out to touch the minds of younger species. He saw them growing old and tired, deciding to step back and let the galaxy find its own way. And then they reached the central chamber, and Danny stopped breathing. The chamber was vast, filled with row upon row of devices that looked exactly like the spark. Hundreds of them, perhaps thousands, all pulsing with gentle light. This was not just a repair station. This was a storehouse, a legacy left behind for those who came after. But that was not what made Danny stop. What made him stop was the figure standing at the center of the chamber, waiting for them. It was one of the precursors, tall and strange, with limbs that seemed to bend in too many directions and a face that shifted like water. It was not quite alive, but it was not dead either. It existed in a state between moments, preserved for millions of years, waiting for this exact moment. And when it spoke, Danny understood every word, not through sound, but through something deeper, a direct impression in his mind that bypassed language entirely. "You have come," the being said. "After all this time, someone worthy has finally come." Danny swallowed hard and stepped forward. "I'm here to save someone, a queen on a world far from here. Her spark is failing, and I need to know how to fix it." The ancient being tilted its head, studying Danny with eyes that seemed to see through him completely. You are human, it said. You are exactly what we hoped you would become. The repairers, the connectors, the ones who would keep our legacy alive. What do you mean? Danny asked. All will be explained, the being said. But first, you must understand what it is you have found, and what it is you must choose. The chamber grew brighter, and Danny felt the weight of history pressing down on him. He had come looking for a spare part. He had found something much more important. The fate of the galaxy was about to change, and Danny Cole was standing at the center of it. The ancient being moved slowly, its form shifting and settling like smoke finding its shape. Danny watched it carefully, his heart pounding in his chest. Captain Lorien stood behind him, their hands hovering near their sidearms, though Danny doubted any weapon they carried would matter against a creature that had survived for millions of years. I am called many things, the being said, its voice resonating directly in Danny's mind. But names are difficult across such vast stretches of time. You may call me if you require something to hold on to. Danny repeated, Are you the last of your kind? I am the last who chose to remain, said. The others faded long ago, returning their energy to the universe that gave them life. I stayed because someone had to keep watch. Someone had to be here when the young ones came seeking answers. Gestured toward the thousands of glowing devices arranged throughout the chamber. These are the sparks. We created them long before your species existed, long before most species in the galaxy today had even begun to evolve. They were gifts, designed to extend the lives of worthy leaders so that civilizations could develop stability and wisdom. Danny thought of Queen lying on her bed of crystal with her light fading. But they were more than that, he said. The one on led us here. It was a beacon. Yes, said, and something like pride flickered across its shifting features. Each spark was designed to guide its recipients back to us when they were ready, when they had grown enough to understand what we left behind. They were always meant to find their way here, but they were not the ones who came. Turned its attention fully to Danny, studying him with those impossible eyes. You are human. Your species was given something different. What do you mean? Danny asked. Raised one of its many limbs, and the air filled with holographic images. Danny saw scenes of ancient Earth, primitive humans struggling to survive in a harsh world. And among them, walking unseen, were figures that looked like. We touched many worlds, explained. We planted seeds of potential everywhere we went. Some species we gave devices like the spark, tools to help them grow. But humans were different. We saw something in you that we had never seen before, a fierce adaptability, a relentless curiosity, and most importantly, the drive to fix what is broken. The images changed, showing humans building tools, solving problems, reaching out to help each other and other species. We modified your biology at the deepest level, continued. We gave you the gift of never being satisfied, of always wanting to understand, to improve, to repair. You were designed to be the maintainers of what we left behind. Danny felt the weight of those words settling on his shoulders. You made us to be your cleanup crew. We made you to be caretakers, said gently. Guardians of knowledge, bridges between species. You are not rulers or conquerors. You are the ones who make things work. Bate stepped forward, her voice sharp. That's a lot of responsibility to dump on someone without asking first. Turned to look at her. We did not force anything upon you. We simply unlocked potential that was already there. What you did with it was always your choice. Danny's mind was racing. This was bigger than saving one queen on one planet. This was about the entire history of humanity and its place in the galaxy. The spark on is failing, he said, bringing the conversation back to the immediate problem. I need to fix it. Can you help me? Was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke again, its voice heavy with something that might have been sorrow. I can give you what you need, but there is a choice you must make first. The ancient being waved its limb, and two objects appeared floating in the air between them. One was a new spark, identical to the one bonded to Queen, glowing with fresh energy. The other was a small crystal that pulsed with complex patterns of light. "This," said, indicating the spark, "is a replacement. Take it back to bond it to your queen and she will live for another 1,000 years. This is the simple solution." Then indicated the crystal. "This is something else entirely. It contains all the knowledge needed to repair sparks permanently. With it, anyone could maintain these devices forever. But this knowledge comes with a burden. The one who carries it must become a new guardian, responsible for sharing and protecting our legacy." Danny looked at both objects, understanding the weight of the decision. "You're asking me to choose between saving the Queen and becoming some kind of eternal watchman." "I am offering you what I offered every species that came before," said. "A simple gift or a great responsibility. Most chose the gift. It is easier." Danny thought about it. He thought about Queen and about all the other species in the galaxy who might have sparks or other precursor technology. He thought about what it meant to be human, to be a fixer, to be someone who could not leave a problem unsolved. And then he made his choice. "I don't want either option," he said. Tilted its head, surprised. "Explain." "Taking the replacement spark saves one queen, but it doesn't solve the real problem. Eventually, other devices will fail, and other civilizations will face the same crisis. And becoming a single guardian creates a bottleneck. One person holding all the knowledge is just as dangerous as no one having it at all." Danny stepped closer too, his voice growing stronger. "I want the third option. Share the knowledge with everyone. Give the repair protocols to all species equally. Let the whole galaxy learn to maintain what you left behind." Was very still for a long moment. "This was never considered," it said finally. "We always assumed that knowledge must be held by the worthy few, passed down through chosen guardians." "Maybe that's why you faded away," Danny said, not unkindly. "You built everything on hierarchy and special chosen ones. But the galaxy has grown since then. There are thousands of species working together now, sharing ideas and resources. We don't need one guardian. We need everyone to be a guardian." Bait laughed behind him. "That's the most human thing I've ever heard. Why hoard when you can share?" Nodded slowly. "It makes sense. Distributed systems are more resilient than centralized ones. Basic engineering principle." Was silent for so long that Danny began to worry he had made a terrible mistake. Then the ancient being made a sound that might have been laughter, deep and resonant, and filled with something like wonder. "In all my millions of years of waiting," said, "no one has ever proposed this. Every species that came before wanted the power for themselves, wanted to be special, wanted to be chosen. You are the first to suggest that everyone should share equally." "Is that a yes?" Danny asked. "It is a yes," said, "but I must warn you, not all species will accept this gift gracefully. Some will see shared knowledge as a threat to their power. Some will try to control it or destroy it. You must be prepared to defend your choice." "I've dealt with difficult people before," Danny said. "I'll manage." Raised its limbs, and both the spark and the crystal floated toward Danny. "Take them both. The replacement for your queen and the knowledge for everyone else. I will transfer everything I know to your ship systems, and then my watch will finally be over." Danny took the objects carefully. The spark was warm in his hands, pulsing with life. The crystal was cool and complex, holding secrets that would change everything. "What will happen to you?" he asked. "I will rest at last," said, and its form was already beginning to fade. "I have been tired for so very long, but I am glad that the last thing I saw was something new, something that gives me hope for what comes next." The ancient being faded away completely, leaving only a faint glow where it had stood. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the thousands of sparks. Bait put her hand on Danny's shoulder. "You just changed the entire galaxy," she said. "How does that feel?" Danny looked at the crystal in his hand, thinking about everything that was about to happen. "It feels like we have a lot of work to do," he said. "Let's go home." The journey back through the shattered veil was easier than the journey in. The station systems had uploaded navigation data to the Pathfinder, showing safe paths through the chaos that no one else had ever known. Captain Lowry guided them through with steady hands, and within hours they were back in normal space, racing toward at maximum speed. Danny spent the entire journey studying the crystal that had given him. It contained more than just repair protocols for the Sparks. It held the collected knowledge of an entire civilization, technology and history and philosophy that would take centuries to fully understand. And according to final instructions, it was meant to be shared with everyone. They arrived at to find the planet in mourning. Queen's light had faded to almost nothing, and her people were preparing for her death. But Danny was not too late. He ran through the palace with the new spark in his hands, Counselor clearing the way ahead of him. The royal chamber was crowded with grieving. Ambassador Murray met Danny at the door, her face lined with worry. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked. "It's her new heart," Danny said. "Stand back." He approached the queen's bed and carefully removed the failing spark. The moment it left her body, her light flickered and nearly went out entirely. But Danny was quick. He placed the new device against her chest, and it bonded instantly, sinking into her flesh and becoming part of her. For one terrible moment, nothing happened. Then a wave of golden light burst from the queen's body, filling the entire chamber with warmth and brilliance. Her eyes opened, and her light blazed stronger than anyone had ever seen it. "What have you done?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. "I fixed it," Danny said simply. "That's what I do." The celebration lasted for 3 days. They sang songs of gratitude in patterns of light that painted the sky above their cities. Danny was honored as a hero, given titles and gifts that he did not know what to do with, but he knew that the hardest part was still ahead. On the 4th day, he presented his findings to the council and Ambassador Murray. He explained everything: the precursor civilization, the purpose of the sparks, and the choice he had made to share the knowledge with everyone. The council did not take it well. "This knowledge should belong to us," declared the eldest council member. "The spark is our sacred heritage. We should be the ones to control its secrets." "The knowledge belongs to everyone," Danny said firmly. "The beings who created it wanted it that way. They left it for all species, not just one." "Then keep it secret entirely," suggested another council member. "Let no one have it. That is the safest path." "Safe for who?" Danny asked. "There are other civilizations out there with failing devices, other leaders who will die if we don't help them. Keeping this knowledge hidden would be the same as letting them die." Queen raised her hand and the chamber fell silent. Her light was steady and strong, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 2,000 years of wisdom. "The human is right," she said. "I have lived long enough to see the damage that hoarded knowledge can do. Empires have risen and fallen because they believed they alone deserved power. We will not make that mistake. The knowledge will be shared." The council bowed their heads, accepting their queen's decision. But Danny knew that not everyone would be so reasonable. Word spread quickly through the Galactic Concord. Within days, representatives from dozens of species were demanding meetings, wanting to know more about the precursor knowledge and how it would be distributed. Most were curious and hopeful, but some were hostile. The Dominion was the worst. They were a militaristic species who had built their power on conquest and intimidation. Their ambassador arrived with an armed escort and a list of demands. "The precursor knowledge must be surrendered to us," the ambassador declared at a hastily arranged Concord assembly. "We are the strongest power in the galaxy. We alone have the resources to properly manage such dangerous technology." Danny stood up to respond. He was just an engineer from a small human colony, standing before representatives of hundreds of species. His voice should have been lost in the crowd, but something in the way he spoke made everyone listen. "The precursors made a mistake," Danny said. "They built their entire civilization on the idea that some beings were meant to lead and others were meant to follow. They chose special ones and gave them special gifts, and in the end, they faded away because that kind of system cannot last forever." He looked around the assembly, meeting the eyes of delegates from species large and small. "The knowledge I carry isn't mine to give to anyone. It belongs to all of us. Every species, every civilization, every curious mind who wants to learn. And I've already started sharing it." The ambassador's face twisted with anger. "What do you mean?" "I mean that while you were preparing your demands, I was uploading the precursor database to every scientific institution in the Concord. It's already spreading across the galaxy. By tomorrow, billions of beings will have access to it. You can't control something that belongs to everyone." The assembly erupted in chaos. The shouted threats, but other species were cheering. Delegates from smaller civilizations who had always been overshadowed by larger powers were standing and applauding. Queen rose from her seat and spoke in a voice that silenced the crowd. "To support this decision, we owe our Queen's life to the courage of one human engineer who asked for nothing in return. If this is what humanity offers the galaxy, then we are proud to stand with them." Captain Lowry stepped forward next. "The human fleet stands behind Danny Cole. Any attempt to seize this knowledge by force will be met with resistance." Then, one by one, other delegates rose to voice their support. Species that had never spoken in assemblies before, civilizations that had always been ignored, all of them standing together for the first time. The ambassador looked around the room and realized he was alone. "This is not over," he warned. Then he turned and left, his escort following behind him. Ambassador Murray approached Danny when the assembly was finished. "You just made some very powerful enemies," she said. "I know," Danny replied, "but I also made a lot of friends. That seems like a fair trade." A new institution was created that day, the Concord Institute of Precursor Studies. It would be governed by representatives from all species, dedicated to understanding and sharing the knowledge that Danny had brought back from the Shattered Veil. For the first time in galactic history, every civilization would have equal access to the secrets of the ancients. Weeks later, Danny returned to his workshop on. He had been offered prestigious positions and grand titles, but he had refused them all. He was an engineer, a fixer of broken things, and that was what he wanted to remain. Queen came to visit him on his first day back. Her light was golden and warm, and she moved with a grace that spoke of renewed vitality. "What will you do now?" she asked. Danny looked at the pile of messages on his desk. They were from engineers, scientists, and curious minds across the galaxy, all wanting to learn about the precursor technology, all wanting to help unravel its secrets. "I have a lot of repair manuals to translate," he said with a smile. "The galaxy has a lot of broken things that need fixing, and for the first time in millions of years, everyone gets to help." The Queen's light flickered with something that looked like amusement. "You humans are strange creatures. You were given a gift that could have made you rulers of the galaxy, and you chose to give it away." "That's not how we see it," Danny said. "We weren't given a gift, we were given a job, and we're happy to do it." He turned back to his workbench, where a disassembled piece of precursor technology waited for his attention. Outside his window, the twin moons were rising, casting long shadows across a world that would never be the same. The galaxy was changing. Old powers were learning to share. New voices were being heard, and at the center of it all, a simple human engineer was doing what humans did best. He was fixing things, one piece at a time,